Tim Petrowich here for Dateline Marion, and it's time for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. And coach, for the first time in a long time, we're talking after a Wildcat loss, 30-8 against Cahokia Friday night. And we talked last week, and you told your kids, and they knew. You could hear when they talked about it on the field, on the sideline. They knew Cahokia is just a really, really good football team.
Yeah, we talked last week about the record was deceiving based on who they had played, and they might have even been better than we even expected. Expected them to be good is one thing, but I think they not only were as good as we thought, I think they played really well Friday, and we've beaten them really close the last 2 years, and I think they were very motivated, and we came out a little flat. Didn't seem to have our same intensity, our same mojo, and whatever you want to call it, and boy, they came out and hit us in the mouth, and it took us about a quarter and a half, I thought, to get our bearings and start playing ball.
Obviously, the Wildcats thrive on offensive success. You've been able to move the ball pretty well, and from the start, they just disrupted pretty much everything you tried to do on offense.
They did, and when we did get a play and got some momentum, there'd be a flag on the field and they'd bring it back. So it felt like right when you felt like we got that long screen to Lucas Schrum, and you felt now we could go tempo and get down the field. We were down, I don't know where we were, inside the 35 maybe or something, and you see the yellow flag, and back it came. And so the timing of those penalties, the inability to get any rhythm and get going, they controlled the line of scrimmage, which made the run game really tough. And we missed some shots. We had some protection issues. We had some. It wasn't any one person. It wasn't any one player or position group. It was just a collective failure on the coaching staff's fault, players' fault. Just not a good night.
One of the things that I noticed, and this is something I think is maybe a little bit of a surprise, especially when you play a team that tends to be as aggressive as Cahokia is, that a few times on the screen passes, they'd let the line would pour through like normal, and you hit that guy on the screen pass, and there would be 3 or 4 guys there waiting for him as well. It seems like they were able to read those plays and do their proper assignments, and that aggression was channeled in the right way for them.
Absolutely. That what you just said, I thought they did better in that particular game than maybe any game I've seen Cahokia do that in 20 years of coaching against them. I thought, we tend to take advantage of their aggressive nature, and do things to throw them off. And when they want to attack, we can screen them, and do different things. But boy, they had the right people in the right place, and the timing of those, which was amazing in the spring and gave us some huge plays, didn't work on Friday.
One of the things that you point to each week, and if you're looking for a bright spot, I guess if you can find one in this game, was that one of the categories you look at is what you call explosive plays, which is plays of 20 yards or more. And you tend to expect in a game against Cahokia, especially a game where they win fairly easily, or it seemed, that there would be a lot of those. And you went back and looked, and there was only 3 plays that they had that were more than 20 yards. They also did some, they put some drives together and did some things like that too.
Yeah, so, when you look at Cahokia, traditionally you look at a very aggressive, what we call a vertical defense. They come right at you. The second thing is they tend to be a little more mistake prone. Penalties, turnovers, and they rely heavily over the last 20 years since I've been watching and coaching against them. They rely on big plays to score their touchdowns. What I thought was interesting in this ball game is that they did so many things that you consider maybe a possible weakness in Cahokia you could exploit. Were not weaknesses at all. They were able to drive the ball. They were able to handle the screen passes. They were able to limit our big plays, and their penalties. Both teams kind of had penalty issues, but not a deciding factor in the game by any means. But I felt like I told my coaching staff, I said that Cahokia team was different. We know they're always aggressive and physical. They're always fast. They're always talented. But this reliance on a big play or a long throw or just a long run, they had a great scheme. They executed extremely well, and I thought Coach Gooden did a great job, and I thought their kids executed their game plan very, very well. I was very impressed, and I felt like those first 3 games they played really prepared them because they out-executed us for sure.
You mentioned after the game, people will look at that game and talk about tackling, and you mentioned the fact that, but we don't play guys like Cahokia has. We haven't played them in the first 3 games. They used 3 or 4 different backs, and they were elusive and hard to tackle. And I think that's, like you said, that's credit to them for their athletic ability.
Yeah, they're very talented. I mean, it's funny. You watch an NFL game and you see Lamar Jackson make a run, and someone will comment that they've got to tackle better. Well, the reason they're not tackling better is because he's Lamar Jackson. So great running backs, receivers, running quarterbacks can make your tackling look pretty poor. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we didn't have some missed tackles, because we did, but there's also, you have to understand that there's a reason for maybe an increase in missed tackles, because when you play guys with that kind of speed and agility, it's going to happen. So, it's part of it. But I agree with you. I think your assessment is right on, and I agree with it. I think they really put together a good defensive and offensive game plan, and in a very positive, non-characteristic way, they played a different brand of ball a bit, still physical, still athletic, but a different brand of ball, and man, it worked well on Friday. I mean, we looked at the films, and we saw some things that concerned us. So those things you hope don't manifest themselves in the way you see them on film, and quite frankly, they did. So obviously, we made some mistakes. Game planning, execution, fundamental stuff that we haven't been doing, we did, and that was frustrating. And I feel like, and I even hate to say this publicly because nobody wants to hear this, but the last 2.5 quarters, we played them to an 8-8 ball game. It's those first 24 points that really put us in a bind. And we fell behind and kind of had to get away from our balance of run and pass and just throw the ball quite a bit. And I don't mean in any way that we matched them perfectly in the last half of that game, but there were some things to build on as the game went on. But man, you just can't spot them 24 points and expect to win a ball game.
Basketball players have heard the term hack-a-shack a lot. Part of their defensive strategy appeared on Friday night to be hold events, and they weren't afraid to take a 15-yard interference penalty or a 10-yard holding penalty to keep him from getting open, and it was effective. You had one drive where you went down the field basically on the strength of penalties, but you were still unable to get a pass completion or anything that would give you a little momentum and give you a little rhythm offensively.
Yeah, you're right, and so the penalties for both teams just continue to disrupt the rhythm. I mean, we tried to go up tempo that final drive before half, and we were driving. They would holding call, pass interference call. We get the penalty, but there were long delays from the penalty to the next snap. Just couldn't get it going. We were trying to wear them down with our tempo, and we never had a chance to do that. And again, credit to them. I just thought they played a great game against us, and I give them the credit. We won't make excuses here. We never do. It's just I got out coached, and I think our players got outplayed. And hopefully we can learn something from this, Tim, and we can regroup and better prepare ourselves for the next time we face a team, either Cahokia again or someone like them, where we've got to do a better job of finding open receivers and exploiting what they give us.
So you come into a game now against a team who has really struggled over the last several seasons. You play Mount Vernon Friday night. You're in Mount Vernon. They did start to get a little bit going this past week against Althoff. This is a game where your kids can come out one of two ways. You can kind of be hanging your heads over the loss, let Mount Vernon hang around for a while, make this an interesting game, or they can be really, really angry and really, really hungry and do what you did a couple years ago, and that's just put them out of the game in the first quarter.
I hope the latter. No, I hope that way. Yeah, exactly. So, you're worried about that as a coach. There's an old adage that says, when you lose a game on Friday, don't lose the next game because of how you address this loss. And I told the kids, I said, I'm not happy, you're not happy, but we gotta stop right now, take a deep breath, and figure out what all of us can do better. And so we don't make the mistake of, making excuses, pointing fingers, dishing out blame, hanging our heads, getting negative, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a funk during your week of practice, and next thing you know, you're still not out of what happened last Friday. And I think our kids have had a great week of practice so far. The attitude seems better, more focused. So I'm hoping that we have a nice bounce back. I'm confident that we will. But I say this every year about Mount Vernon. We played them 0-4 here a few years ago, and it took us to the last drive to win the game. When I watch them on film, I can see them getting better. They are definitely an improved football team from the first couple of games I watched them play this year to last week. They're finding out who they are. They're doing more of those things well. I think they're a physical team, and they've got some kids that can flat play. The big thing for them, they just haven't put it together, and you don't want them to finally put it together against you. So, we'll have to play. The South 7 team can be 0-4, but still have a lot of talent. And I feel like they're that way. There's individuals on this team. We could show our kids the film yesterday in film session, and they had some kids that'll open your eyes. And so we want to make sure we prevent them from making big plays, and we execute better and have a sense of urgency we didn't have last week.
You talked about this a little bit just a moment ago, but you watched your game film on Saturday. You've taken a look at Mount Vernon. You've had a practice. It's early in the week, but it does seem like they're really focused on correcting what happened wrong Friday night.
Yeah, I think so. And we had the toughest Monday practice we've had all year, and we were out on the grass and we wore full pads and we got after it. And I no player at 3:30 when school's out wants to face a hot full pad practice on a Monday, because that's normally not our Monday. But I think afterwards, we got done close to 6 o'clock, I think they were glad. I think they knew it was necessary. They knew we needed it. And so I think that got our week off on the right step, on the right foot. And I think we'll continue to get after them this week and send a sense of urgency to them, and try to correct those mistakes. We're adamant about the things we did wrong we have to fix, and if we don't fix them, we got to get some new dudes in there, because that's part of coaching. Is shame on you if you do it wrong, and shame on me if I continue playing you. And we've got some young men that are outstanding football players. They just strayed a little bit from their techniques and their assignments, and we as a coaching staff got to do a better job of teaching, and they've got a better job of following.
Something else you mentioned was trying to avoid the big plays. If you go back to the spring game, you scored fairly quickly, got the ball scored really quickly. Mount Vernon struck back with a big play on their first play of the next drive, and that gives them confidence, and they were able to keep that game reasonably close for most of the game.
Yeah, so. It was a shootout there for a while, and no, we don't want that. That's the key, and that play probably bothered me as much as any single play last season, was because we scored, they were down, and they came right back the next play and hit a long pass for a touchdown and tied it up. And so we want to avoid that kind of shootout with them again. But like I said, they've got some individuals that I would take in a moment. They've got some really, really fine football players, and so we got to make sure that we stay within our game plan and go back to executing the way I love what we did the first 3 weeks, and get back to doing those things, and just an overall the difference between, Tim, playing really well and playing really poorly sometimes is not as much as people think. And in football, it takes 11 kids to execute an assignment well for a play to be usually effective. And in football, you can have 9 guys do something really good and 2 guys not, and the play kind of falls apart. And so we're not like 6 or 7 guys didn't do the right thing or weren't coached good enough. It's the fact that, just a guy here and a guy there wasn't the same guy every snap. It's almost like we took turns just, not doing what we've been doing the first 3 weeks. So I'm confident that we'll tighten those screws a little bit, and we'll have a little more focus, and we'll play much better.
On the road again for the second week in a row, and and just talk a little bit about you had some pretty good numbers on your sideline as far
Yeah.
as fans all the way at Cahokia. So even
Yeah.
Mount Vernon's a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Should have some good support.
I think so. It's a nice field, brand new facility, and it's a good place to play. It's a good bleacher setup for our fans, and I feel comfortable playing there. I think our kids do too. Short bus ride, so we'll be able to do some pregame stuff here at the middle side of things, the walkthrough and stuff before we leave, and so the weather should be good. So we're looking forward to when you win, you like to savor that for a day or so and then get back to work. When you lose, Wimbo said on the interstate on the way home from Cahokia, we wish we could have stopped in Mount Vernon Friday night and played right then because we were ready to get it out of our system, but in football you got to patiently wait a week to get that good taste back in your mouth or have a chance to. So we're excited about Friday. I think there's a renewed energy that we didn't see last week for some reason, and I talked to the kids pretty extensively last week about the power of negativity can hurt a football team and can hurt a season, but also too much positivity can be detrimental as well. And sometimes when you've had a lot of success early, like we've had, winning by big margins, sometimes you begin to believe what people tell you, and you believe maybe you're better than you really are. And then I told them after Cahokia, neither one. You're not as good as you thought you were, and you're not as bad as you were tonight. You're somewhere in the middle. And when we execute and play together and do the game plan, we can be a really good football team. But the moment we don't do those things, we get ordinary in a hurry. And we talked about it before the Cahokia game. We mentioned that again. This was a kind of a see I told you moment, that we have to stay on top of our game, everyone playing at an elevated level. And when we do, good things can really happen.
Friday is the midpoint of the season, so we kind of need to talk about where this team is health-wise. And I know you've had a couple guys who've been out for a couple weeks. What's the situation with them?
We've still got a young man out on quarantine. We have a young man still out with an ankle injury. Other than that, medical stuff, but nothing that's going to prevent us from being at full strength as of the taping of this. So we're, in this COVID era, you just, it's a day-by-day thing, and I don't mean to be negative towards Ryan Gadisky, but when I look at my phone and I get a phone call from him during the day, I'm always like, so and 9 times out of 10 it's something very positive or just necessary. But I just I feel bad because I look at that like, I hope this isn't that phone call that says we've had an outbreak or something. So so far we've had a few here and there like everybody else, but we're hanging strong, and we should be close to full strength on Friday.
All right. Well, Friday night the Wildcats are at Mount Vernon to take on the Rams. Game time is 7:00. That's Marion head football. Go ahead. You got one more thing?
I do.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Shout out St. Mary's coach Ken Turner.
There you go.
I'm a longtime fan of the show, and I talked to him this week. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
I want to give him a shout out and tell him congratulations on a great year so far, and appreciate him tuning in.
Okay, and the connection is that he used to be the coach at Althoff.
He was the coach at Althoff for many years. We had some great games against each other. I think we made each other better coaches.
And it was funny because he came and told me that he watched this show all the time too. So
I don't know if he's watching as much as he used to, but I told him to tune in this week. He'd get a shout out. So
all right. Well, that's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.